We're doing something a little bit different this morning for our bunker maintenance. Trying to alleviate a couple issues that we're getting. So with these nice new bunkers that we've got, we typically just hand rake. And one reason for that is it really helps grooms the sand at the surface, but keeps everything nice and compact. That's what we want with these bunkers. We want this sand to stay firm and compacted. However, I don't know if you can see it in the video or not, but repeated hand raking is actually causing a wavy pattern to form in the bunkers, and that's creating kind of an inconsistent playability in these. So that's one issue. Second issue, something you really will see when you get this much lighter sand is you'll start to see some algae growing in these. Now I scrape back a little bit of sand. I don't know if the video will pick it up, if you can see the little bit of a greener tint to it. But traditionally bunkers will always have that problem. Our old ones, you didn't really notice it, mainly because the sand was really dark brown, kind of dirty looking. You don't really see that green hue in the bunkers, but with this lighter sand you will see it, and we're starting to have that issue where we're starting to see algae in these. So one way to alleviate that is to do a deep rake of these bunkers. So we're taking our bunker machine, our Sand Pro, we're coming out here, we're mechanically raking the sand. And it's got deep tines on it that really get deep, really turn that sand over to more or less aerate it. Help turn that sand over, dry it out, air it out, help break down that algae. But also it's really good at kind of grooming and leveling the sand, so it should help take this waviness out. The one downside of using this machine, and it's something we will see hopefully just in the short term, is it really turns that sand over, so it's going to make this sand soft. So in terms of playability, expect these things to play soft for a little bit. Now this is kind of us figuring these new bunkers out, trying some different things, seeing what works, what doesn't work. So like our bunker machine, it's got tines on it that go through that sand, and they're very deep. They're about 3 to 4 inches deep. If that's too deep and it turns the sand over too much, they get too soft, we'll go back, maybe reassess, maybe shorten those tines down. Do a little more shallow, almost cultivation of this sand. But that's kind of what we're doing this morning, getting through all of them. One thing we also are doing is using the two side of the rake to also turn the faces over. We're seeing more algae issues in the face. That's because you typically do the Australian method. We just use the smooth side of the rake, like so. And that really, over time, makes those faces really hard and compact. So when the ball hits that face, it doesn't plug, it rolls down into the bottom. But because we're not turning that sand over, we're getting more algae growth. And you kind of see it a little bit, that little bit of darker color. There's some algae in there. So we have to go through with the two side, turn that sand over, help air that sand out. Hopefully that helps break that algae down. I've heard of other guys using things like a pool shock or a chlorine product. I think I maybe even heard of guys using bleach to help break that algae down. It's just something we're gonna have to deal with this lighter sand. Hopefully it's not something we'll have too many issues with. A lot of places have more issues with it because they're pulling their irrigation water out of a pond. Well, what do ponds usually have? Algae. And so you're almost promoting it, where we're on city water that does have some chlorine in it. So that might help mitigate some of the algae growth. So it's just something that's common. We're gonna have an issue with every now and then. We're just trying out and seeing, hey, if we mechanically rake, really turn that sand over like such, if that will alleviate that issue. But as I say, it's as we're kind of figuring these things out, and we will see how it goes.